fake it and show it. No. Gotta pull your own weight if you reap it, you sow it. Weight out here. Yeah, gotta plant it and grow it. That's drop that artificial food, come to eat with a poet.
Hey guys, it's your girl Elena the Poet, and by now you've heard of my show, Eat with the Poet. It is deep conversations with South Florida's known unknown gems. You guys need to go to YouTube, go to Elena Poet, subscribe, hit the like, and drop a comment. Watch a few shows. But listen, we on a journey. And we doing this together. Subscribe.
Pay attention to Elena and her podcast.
And we right back. It's part 2.
So I was saying that when you're having conversation, you have room for everybody's feelings to be valid. Mm-hmm. When we start to try to invalidate how people feel, it's about being right and wrong versus just understanding.
Correct.
You know,
Correct.
I'm so about understanding. I don't care to be right. I'd rather be wrong because I know I'm learning when I'm wrong. You know, and when the conversation often comes up about the LGBT community and any offenses made towards them. Right now, I can say that there's a growing feeling in the community based on people I've had conversations with. I don't necessarily feel this way, but there's some validity to it that, for one, the LGBT community has gained more rights than Black people, and there's that feeling of it's being pushed. As a social norm, which it is. It is a social norm, but it's being pushed so much that people who weren't prepared, weren't educated, that these people have already been existing in the shadows. They're now just have the rights to do the same things that you do. It looks like you are trying to push an agenda. You know, and that is a growing feeling amongst some people. And I mean, I don't want to invalidate it or make it right and wrong, but I do have to give room for those people's feelings as well, because then there's how do we educate children about sexuality, or should we even be talking to children about sexuality? You know, how do we, and I was so disturbed about what happened with Dwayne Wade's daughter. I was very disturbed about how we as a community approach him in his way of parenting. Because that's all that was. Just parenting, you know. And we have this very slave mentality of how we conduct ourselves in families and in the community, and it's really rooted in homophobia. It's really rooted in that, and we take away from our collective power when we don't give room for the LGBT community to have a place in our community. That's why they created their own community, because they don't have a place in our community.
That's pretty powerful. You have to agree with that, right?
So there is a major challenge with, because you said LGBTQ community as if they're not. I know you know we're here because I'm Black, and mentioning that as if the LGBT community has more rights than Black people, and that's not close to true. The LGBTQ people just got the right for marriage, which Black folks, and we don't want to do the comparison like you said earlier, but you raise a comparison. So, no, there's many places in this country someone could they say, no, you can get married anywhere in the country, right? But you can get married in some places at same-sex marriage, and then you could get fired the next day because there's still not protection in terms of employment, housing. There's a whole entourage of rights that LGBTQ people do not have in America and the world. But what I think is important, and I'm tuning into what you're saying, is that there needs to be more conversations because
Absolutely,
there is not enough understanding of the LGBT community, and I felt like when I came in, I only came out 2013, so this is pretty recent for myself. I had a lot to learn. And the organization, the community is always evolving. I say I'm gay. Some people say, well, no, gay is for men. You know, and queer wasn't a thing 10 plus years ago. That actually was an insult. So it's ever evolving. It's hard to keep up.
One more Bob Marley for her. You need anything?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Shout out to Summer. She knows she's my baby.
That's right, yes. So I understand, especially someone coming into the community later, that it is challenging to understand the community, to keep up because it is ever evolving. And then we're also not a monolith. We're different. We're not all like, we don't agree on this, like on the same things, right? So, you know, some folks say queer, some people say lesbian. There's so much different phrases and so on, but I think it's important for us to have the conversation to gain better understanding. And for you saying, hey, we want to be more educated. This thing that happened with the baby created a platform and a forum to have this conversation here, but wide, very wide. I read that he sat with several organizations who informed him about the dangers of when he spoke, what that meant. So but that's good because it didn't just inform him. It informed everybody who followed him and everybody who read the articles.
But
so
then, too, it probably also created some type of, like she said, more division where people, like, now are upset with the LGBT community for even taking him through that. But here's the thing. When you had said that you guys are different and different stuff like that, it's funny because I was in T-Mobile and both of the guys there who were helping me out, they were homosexual guys, younger boys, so cute, right? Such cute little boys. And they were just so fun and helping me out and everything. And we laughed and talked in the store. And then we got into talking about movies. And I said, no offense, but it's like every movie they have to put something about homosexuality or put some type of gay couple in there, you know, just to throw it in there. Like, hey, by the way, here's some gay sex, you know? And I was like, why do they have to do that? And I'm asking you guys. I'm talking to two of them. And so they say to me, you know what, girl? I hate that. And they're like, I hate that. You know, sometimes I just want to watch a movie. Like, I don't want to watch the gay movies. I don't want to, it's some of that stuff is just too gay for me. You know, and it was
that is where you see, that is where the feeling of it, an agenda being pushed comes out because it's everywhere.
Because even
like I'm sorry.
Go ahead, girl.
I think I heard a couple years ago where I'm a Harry Potter fan, right?
Okay.
It's on HBO. All of them on HBO right now. But I read somewhere that Professor Dumbledore was a gay man. And I'm like, okay, so I've watched every movie multiple times. Where in the movie was there ever an indication or a conversation around that? So it seemed more of an agenda, like, okay, well, he was gay. Well, if you, I don't have a problem with it.
But they didn't openly
but it was never
make it a
in the movie.
thing.
It wasn't even in the books. So how do we distinguish something being genuine? This is what it is. This is what is happening. This was written into the versus it being something that's thrown in there to bring in the LGBT to be.
Also,
I turned up everything, but
another thing too, to piggyback on your question, because this one for you, we're going to put you to work real quick. Also, to piggyback off your question, when you say the agenda thing, I have even heard or found out about celebrities who are actually not lesbians or homosexuals, but they publicly say they are, in order to get more publicity.
Listen, the LGBT community got the best support ever.
Let me tell you.
So it's
there is an agenda. The agenda.
Thank you for saying that.
The agenda is for equality. That is the agenda, right? Because there's not LGBTQ equality. Like America has some rights. Many places in the world have zero. My home country, Jamaica, has zero protection. right? Mm-hmm. Many places here. So if you're talking about agenda, it is an agenda for equality. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned saying it's alike when you look at TV, it's here and there, it's everywhere. That to me is a blessing because visibility is so important. I never saw myself on TV. I never saw a lesbian growing up. How do you become something that you don't see? So it's actually very important. I remember seeing, I love Spike Lee, seeing two black people sensual. 1980 something, I'm sitting in a movie theater in Manhattan. And it struck me, I'm about 15, 16. I'd never seen black people on the screen making love. I'd seen George and Weezy Jefferson do this pucker up kiss. I never saw real intimacy. Mm-hmm. And it's so important for you to see yourself. So when you talk about, everywhere, we are existing everywhere. Mm-hmm. It's important for us to see ourselves and for people to see. When you say we're everywhere, we are everywhere.
And that may be that very well may be true. But so here's my opinion. LGBTQ. Now, tell me if I'm wrong, and I got you in here because we can talk.
Right. We can talk.
All right,
let's talk.
Don't play now.
No, I didn't come to play.
All right. So LGBT, what that is a community, but what makes you that is your choice of sexuality. What you choose.
Not a choice.
Okay, this is my opinion.
Oh, okay. This is your opinion. Okay.
My opinion is what you choose to do with your private parts. Okay. Now you hold that because
I'll hold it. I'll let it go ahead.
Let it go. I'm gonna give you the gun so you can let it go. Mm-hmm. All right. So that's what I always looked at it as, and this is why education is so important because I've always felt like what makes you gay, what makes you homosexual, is who you choose to have sex with. And as people, the way we were naturally designed is that we care for people. So you fall in love with the person you having sex with. See, sex is so. I'll tell you why I feel like it's for sex. Because sex is so important. Sex is so powerful. It is so spiritual. It is so because God created it. Because man and woman are the only beings that have the ability to bring forth life by coming together and forming a child. So sex is so powerful that you only exist because of it. Mm-hmm. I only exist because of it. She only exists because two people had sex and made a baby. Boom. Now we're here. Right. So this is the reason why I feel like that, and this is why, and I'm gonna just throw a little Bible in there. The Bible says that, you shouldn't fornicate, which means that you shouldn't have sex before marriage because God knew when he made sex that it was such a powerful thing that it creates people that he knew what it could do when two people come together and do that. It's powerful. So I said that to say that, because you choose or because under what I thought to my belief is that it's a sexual choice, that why is it that we have to know about your sexual choice? If the main agenda is equality, and we all just want to be together as one to be able to be treated equally as people, minus the LGBT, because you don't got to know when I'm getting it. Right. I don't got to know when you getting it. None of that is my business. It's not yours. Why can't we strive for equality as a people in general and forget about why it's important to respect who you choose to be with? This is what I've never understood.
Okay, I'll start with it's definitely not a choice, right?
Okay.
If I had a choice, I would have stayed married to the amazing man I married and had my family, right? It was about a 20-year journey for me to come to terms with who I really am.
Okay.
I would never have chosen it.
Okay.
Right? Am I proud and happy that I am queer? I am a lesbian. I feel blessed.
Okay.
Because my life has rewarded me in many, many ways for being myself.
Have you ever struggled with it since you made that choice?
It's not a choice.
Okay.
I can tell you where my choice. I can tell you where my choice was. The choice was is to be myself.
That's the choice.
It's to be myself.
Right.
So but it's not a choice of I want to be with women. That's who I've been my entire life. Mm-hmm. Right? That's who did I know this when I was 10 or 12? I'm growing up where I didn't see this around me. Mm-hmm. Right? I'm growing up where I'm hearing it's wrong. Right? My parents were open and liberal and supportive of the community, but I'm still in a country where everybody's saying negative things. I would have never selected it. Mm-hmm. The people who are brutalized, people who are raped, why would they select it? Mm-hmm. Who would choose something to be a part of to be a part of a community that has been so ostracized and oppressed. Like, when people say it's a choice, I'm like, who's going to choose it? Because it's really an oppressed group. And what you're seeing is really a group who's working to get equality. So it's in your face in many ways, and you're like, hold on, what's this? This is oppression, right? And what do folks do when they're oppressed? They fight for equality, and that's what you're seeing. So some people, just like some people, look at black people and go, "What are y'all doing? Why are you doing that?" That's how some people are feeling about the queer community, and it's because it's like we want equality. We don't want to be brutalized, but who is picking it? And like, lots of people. I mean, I would say younger folks now. It's so much more. It's so much more liberal. Maybe some teenagers don't find it as oppressive. I know it's still very difficult, but as someone, I'm 48 years old, right? I can't imagine people from back in the day who would select something that's so oppressive. Why select
Let me just say this. I know you guys say something, but let me just say this real quick. When you say it's not a choice, I understand that. I've watched some documentaries and some different things on people who basically have gone through the whole thing, the Christianity, everything, and then at the end of the day, they just couldn't understand why that kept drawing them back. But let me ask you a question. If it's not a choice, then why is it that nowadays I see these young girls pressuring regular young girls who don't know, ain't even thinking about being a lesbian? And these young girls are pretty much going so hard trying to convert.
Who are these young girls? I never heard of
teenagers in college. I have one of my friends' children just got into high school. And now she's being raised in a Christian home. Just got into high school. Actually, she just started, 8th grade.
Okay, middle school.
Yeah. And so she's met these new set of friends and these girls, and they're trying to explain to her about, how cool it is to be a lesbian and be, girl, it's this, and trying to get into her and get that spirit, exchange that spirit so she can begin to be curious and wonder when those thoughts were never really there. And it's like, if it's a choice, which I believe you, why are LGBT people trying to, and maybe those are not
I
real.
Think that's maybe those are young. Maybe those are young. Heard of that.
Have you heard of children being influenced to try being bisexual or be lesbians?
It's a trend. It is definitely a trend, a fad.
That's the younger thing. We talking to G. She old school.
Yeah, I'm old.
Sorry, y'all.
And I'm going to tell you though, I was just in Massachusetts hanging out with my cousin who has a 14-year-old daughter, and she talked very relaxed about girls who like girls. So it's very much more open. When I was in high school, New York City and Kingston, nobody was openly queer. Nobody. Nowadays, she's like, oh yeah, my friends, they're a couple that. So it's much more relaxed. Yes. So is there pressure? I don't know because I'm not there.
They're pressuring the little girls.
But I know that boys pressure girls when I was a kid.
That's true.
So why boys pressure? I mean, that's something that's been the case. How is that different from girls pressuring girls? Because I know that boys have been doing that from the beginning of time.
Yeah, but here's the thing. The thing is, when being heterosexual is what would be considered to be normal.
Well,
wait now. Well, I mean, when it comes to reproduction, when it comes to reproduction,
but queer women, they're lesbians.
No, we know
who have children, and there's too many children.
And we know there are ways that have been created, and like you said, you guys have evolved. The community has evolved and has found so many ways to better themselves and to, so I get that. But what I'm saying, when it comes to the old fashioned, the 1978, where you was born?
73.
When it comes to the 1973 G, who was pushed out, we understand the design. So I don't want you to talk about it like you don't know.
No, I know
that the normal thing is boys and girls.
We want to stop saying normal because things have changed. Even looking at a family, look at this. We as families supposed to be man, woman, and children.
Okay.
Somebody's
tell me how to talk about it because I don't want to be talking about it wrong.
So let me say.
Okay, go ahead.
Family's supposed to be what? A man, woman, and the children. But someone's raised by their sister and someone's raised by their grandmother. That's a family, right? And someone's raised by their auntie and siblings, and someone's raised by two women. So family doesn't have to be a man and woman. Some people, there's many different ways to create a family. It's not, so it has changed. So we don't want to say normal. It's just changed. So, I mean, if you take a poll, I'm sure that probably more children are not raised by a man and woman than not. I want to touch on something else you said earlier about why do people have to know, right? Being a lesbian is not about what happens in a bedroom
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
It's not just what happens. It's a part of how I express myself, how I'm romantic with a woman.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just saying I have sex with women. So it's a part of my identity. I'm also, in terms of gender, I'm gender nonconforming. I identify as a gender nonconforming woman. And that's a part of my identity. Just like being Jamaican and being black and being a woman. These are parts. So I don't have to hide any part of my identity. Someone might say, why people gotta know you're Jamaican? I'm proud of it. Why people gotta know this? I'm proud of it. I'm proud to be a lesbian. I shouldn't have to hide any part of myself. Right? So when you say, why do people have to know? That's part of my identity.
Well, I say that when it comes to changing things for everybody else. What I'm saying, when I say that, I mean in the masses of things, when you talk about it shifting things and making other people uncomfortable. That's what I mean when I say that. I just mean if for all that, you know what I'm saying? It's like how, when they say, pick your battles, LGBT has chosen to completely, take whatever it is that they feel they want for themselves. And so with that being said, it's like, because I want to be very careful with what I'm saying. I don't want to say, I want you to understand where I'm coming from, but you guys are a very powerful force, for lack of better words.
Right. I agree. Yeah.
A very powerful force. And everybody knows it. Like what you are saying you guys have fought so hard for is exactly why we understand how powerful you are right now.
Right.
You understand?
Right.
It's a whole movement.
Right.
I can swear to you, Pride was from January up until just last week.
Right. It's all year round. But you don't, I don't know if you know this. So let me just, for America, this is only the past 50-something years. I think Stonewall Riot was 68 or 69. I think 68. So this is what, 50 couple years. It's not a long time. So this is new. This is new for America, right? And much of the world is not even close. And people I know Europe, lots of places in Europe are way beyond where we are. But it's interesting to me, when you talk about LGBTQ people, please remember, you got your black people. We're right here. So even when this rapper, The Baby, says about HIV, and I was reading the stuff they told me, let them know. Black people, your own people are disproportionately affected by this. So sometimes when you're feeling like, these LGBTQ people, these are your siblings and your relatives and your person beside you in church. We're right here. We're part of the black community as well. Many of us. Yeah, we are right here.
So let me say this also too, because I'm an artist and I'm a host as well. When I'm on stage, there isn't a script that I'm going by. Right. I know my poems and everything, but in between crowd engagement, I say some things that I go back and be like, okay, say maybe you should have said that, right? It was funny in your head, but when it came out, it was, and I want to give room for that because even though what he said brought this conversation to light, and it also highlights to me, I think, a bigger conversation because we're focusing on what he said about the LGBT community, HIV and AIDS, and the misinformation he spread. We're focusing on that instead of focusing, for me, on the vulgarity and the misinformation, the sexism, the way hip hop has evolved into this rhetoric that's being spread, and for people to even think, and I was one of those people, but for people to think that music don't impact and impress people is crazy, because we have music that we listen to in the morning that keeps us going. When we go work out, it makes us work out. Like, it's the same thing. And and a lot of times, I know for me, there's artists that I listen to that when I sit down and listen to the lyrics, I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Because music typically moves us because of the sound, not the words.
Correct.
By the time you hear the words, we've already been inundated with the song, and we like it. It's a part of us now. So, and I'm bringing that up because as we're talking about this, and I'm listening, I'm hearing how, you know, we've kind of minimized what he said to it just being about the LGBT community. We minimized that, or HIV, when this conversation has needed to been had long time ago about many of things that rappers say. Yeah. And then that is also identifying the power of the LGBT community, because while this conversation needed to happen, why are we having the conversation? Because he offended the LGBT community. Okay? We couldn't get the conversation to be had when rappers have been for years disrespecting Black women,
or telling our children what type of drugs to use,
and we haven't had that drugs, killing, all of those things. We haven't talked about the record labels that won't even push good conscious music because they want music about killing and murder. We haven't even had that conversation, which is a bigger conversation.
That's a huge conversation.
It's a bigger conversation. However, what happens quite often is, when the offense comes to the LGBT community, and because it's such a hot topic and it's a landmine, it takes over. It takes over. And it's not to say that it's not important. It is. It's just that once we have this conversation, the same community that has that power needs to address that power to the other issues of what they're doing.
That's true.
That power cannot just be used for self if it is indeed power.
Correct.
It needs to be used for equality for everyone. And I get that I get that it hasn't been that equality, and there's been things you've been lacking. I think you pointed out, and I'm glad you did, that lesbians just got the right to get married. Yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out. And the same thing happens when there's conversations about feminism and women's suffrage. Okay, that didn't include Black women. That didn't include Black women. So when we're talking about these movements and the power that they have, when you get what you want and need, that power now needs to be used for everyone else if you are indeed searching for equality. If not, then it is about self and my community. I'm not worried about anybody else's community, because the same music is affecting you, killing, drugs. The same music is affecting women, period. So that conversation, while it triggered and that the community now has the floor, I want to see what they do with it, because now you got the floor to address the issues about what's going on in your community, but you live in the world. So how are you going to help the rest of us?
5 minutes, G. Reply.
Well, it's interesting because as you're speaking, I understand what you're saying, but the LGBT community, I think it's just fine to focus on that community because we're working towards equality. We're behind many other communities, including our Black community, right? Because, like I said, we don't have all the rights. We don't have all the rights of, so my queer side doesn't have all the rights of my Black side, right? But as you're saying that, to me, it sounds like you're saying, hey, here's an organization fighting for cancer. What about AIDS? Like, no. LGBT community can focus on the community, just like Black community can focus on the Black community. But guess who's a part of the LGBT community? Black people and women. And these are things that can be addressed. I did see an article talking about it wasn't solely HIV, it was also some languages offensive to women. Right? That's a great place for women to step up. It doesn't have to be LGBTQ women, but we can step up any woman or anybody who's a part of that movement. But I don't think it's fair to say, hold on, LGBT community, take on all these things. It's like saying to the AIDS organization, take on cancer, or take Black people, take on the Hispanic community. Like, no. But we do want equality, and because LGBTQ people include every single race, we're concerned about racial justice, social justice. This is the part of my identity. LGBTQ is a part of my identity that includes every single race, and we do want equality for our people, whoever we are, right? It's not just, you can't cut away the LGBTQ part and I'm Black. right? And all these things. And we have everybody in our community. And we want equality for all.
Y'all, this too good.
This has been amazing.
No, this is too good. We gotta do a 3 because this ain't gonna work. Because people gonna be hitting me up about this episode. So y'all just stay out.
Big up for creating this conversation.
The courage to have this conversation.
We needed to have this conversation.
Excellent.
We needed to. And we have to actually get more into it. I actually want to do that hip hop conversation that you was talking about the music too, because that too would be for the children, and it just, listen y'all, I love y'all. I thank y'all so much for tuning in. We're gonna bring this one back. Thank you, Eva the Poet.
Peace to all the queens. What's up out there? We live. Tapping in. I need everybody to tap in. Cool people. Eat with a poet. Subscribe. Never leak it or show it. Gotta pull your own weight. If you reap it, you sow it. Come eat with a poet. Gotta plant it and grow it. Drop that artificial food. Come and eat with a poet. Kicking words with the poets, I get lyrical. Physical is great, my journey now is spiritual. Peace to the queens in the nation and foreign. I would like to introduce you to Elena the poet. Stay down in the jungle like some bare feet. Now when we toast Ace of Spade, no more bare feet. Poking beans, Dane County, yeah, I'm still hood. Spread love, feed the homeless cause it feels good. Now pay attention, this is knowledge of wealth. Throw the school books away, this is knowledge of self. Quiet is kept, listen, this the Revolution broadcast. Now pay attention to Elena and her podcast. Never leak it and show it. Gotta pull your own weight if you reap it, you sow it. Yeah, gotta plant it and grow it. Drop that artificial food, come and eat with a poet. Come eat with a poet. Shout out to Elena the poet. Cool people. See, I need everybody to tap in, subscribe, spread love. You know what I'm talking about? Black power, black power. Black queens, black kings. Shout out to all the kings, all queens. Forward